Welcome back to the program. You're still watching Market View. This is the Thursday edition. And listen, something must be in the water in the United Arab Emirates. Surely, Eswatini's deepening ties with the Emirates have once again delivered a landmark agreement. This time, a game-changing investment promotion and protection agreement. It's a bold move that cements Eswatini's position as an emerging investment destination. Now, with the UAE backing its economic ambitions, surely we should be seeing some exciting developments. Now, at the heart of this deal, a commitment to facilitate capital flows, protect investments, as well as to unlock new economic opportunities for both countries. That is the Kingdom of Eswatini and the UAE. But beyond the paperwork, what does this really mean for Eswatini's business landscape? That is where our newsroom comes in, and we try to ask the important questions like how will it attract UAE investors, and more importantly, ensure that these investments translate into real economic impact for ordinary Eswatini. To unpack this and more, none other than the Minister of Commerce, Industry and Trade makes sense for this conversation. The Minister and Eswatini, of course, in the UAE, they are clearly building something big. But let's start with this agreement, what it signals. Minister, as I welcome you to the program, good afternoon to you. What does it signal for Eswatini?
Thank you for hosting me. I'm truly excited to be here today. First and foremost, we really want to thank His Majesty for his visionary leadership, because it was a strategic intent on his part that then, translated to, specific initiatives for us as ministers to form a strong strategic alliance, economic alliance with the UAE, as well as, government-to-government alliances, so that we can improve our service delivery. And this is aimed at ensuring that as the country, moves with speed towards being a first world state, we are not reinventing the wheel, and we are not wasting time doing what others have done well. And the UAE are best in class, and they are, are leaders in all sectors of the economy. So it makes sense for us as an economy to partner with them. And to do that, there needs to be a framework, a basis for that engagement. We've signed a few agreements, by the way, with them. Just last year, the Minister for Finance signed an agreement that is called a double taxation agreement that ensures that businesses across the two states, Eswatini and the UAE, manage taxes in a coherent manner that doesn't disadvantage or jeopardize the investors' financial aspirations. This particular agreement that you refer to today, that speaks to investments and investment promotion and protection, is one that has been in the works for the last 2.5 years. So myself and my team have been to the UAE several times to actually work on the contents of the agreement and make sure that we represent the country's interests, and we also understand what's important to the UAE government and the private sector in the UAE. So this particular agreement speaks to, the framework that will inform how investments from the UAE, such as the Palazzo hospitality, deal that has just come through right now, will be governed. And I can say, without that agreement, we wouldn't have been able to get Palazzo in as an operator for the ICC and the hotel, because it is actually almost compulsory in the UAE that they do businesses outside the UAE with countries that they have such agreements with.
Absolutely. You speak about double taxation agreement with the Ministry of Finance. We've seen the AI agreement with the Ministry of ICT. And now this particular investment agreement with the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade. But what really grabs my attention is you highlighting that you have been in talks, or this has been, developing for the previous 2.5 years. I was going to remind you that 2.5 years ago, we did see you making that important trip, and it excited a lot of Eswatini. What you mentioned at the time, 2.5 years ago, was that it's going to come with a lot of job opportunities, and surely we are seeing the birth of that. You mentioned the Palazzo Hospitality thing that is getting a lot of Eswatini excited.
Right.
I'm telling you, on my social media, I'm seeing a lot of people talk about that. But again, it reminds me, these things take time sometimes. We shouldn't rush them. 2.5 years ago, culminating today.
Yes.
You know, it's important that you emphasize that.
I really want to, because sometimes we get into the temptation to despair as a nation when a new initiative is being rolled out. I'll make a simple example: the AFCFTA. The agreement was signed and it is now, in action. But people are beginning to say, "Hey, what's happening? These things take time. You are not turning a speedboat. You are turning a tanker, and it takes time. And there's a lot of work, concerted efforts. So staying power is important because, there are many distractions that come along the way. But I'm very happy that we've gotten to a point where we've actually agreed that there will be, joint efforts across the two countries to promote investments. I mean, the UAE, as you may be aware, is strong in the financial sector. So we're already having conversations in this regard, strong in the petroleum sector, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm excited about what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years.
If anything, if the U.S., Ukraine thing is anything to go by, it should teach us that microwaved agreements can haunt you. We are seeing what Donald Trump is doing, with regards to what Joe Biden did. So, I just want to agree with what you're saying, that some of these things take time and we ought to give it the time that it requires. But I want us to come back to this agreement.
Yes.
You speak passionately about foreign direct investment every time you're given the platform to speak, because surely that means a lot to economic transformation for any nation.
Right.
What does that mean for our foreign direct investment? But also, what are the specific industries and sectors that are going to leverage the most off of this partnership?
So there's a few that we believe we need to prioritize. Foreign direct investment for Eswatini is extremely key, because any country that doesn't import foreign currency, will be left wondering what happened as other countries develop. The trade, between ourselves and the UAE is very muted as we speak, and part of it was the absence of these agreements. And now that we do have these agreements, a lot of people in the agricultural sector will now be able to understand. I mean, it's a very high net worth, country. So the consumption levels are extremely high. Demand for food is insatiable almost in those parts of the world. What it means then is we need to then, get our agricultural sector to understand what niche organic offerings can we then supply to the UAE. Conversely, we are looking to, as I've said before, the petroleum sector. We're getting our strategic reserve up and running pretty soon, hopefully. We need oil, and we don't want to be depending on middlemen. The UAE is going to be extremely crucial in this conversation. For example, we have minerals, and we want strategic partners that we can export to, and that can help us to beneficiate our minerals locally. And there's already interest from the UAE in this particular regard. The financial sector, we need to transform our financial sector so that it is best in class, like what you find in the UAE, Dubai to be specific, and those skills cannot be found locally. The IT sector, we want to really use the UAE as a benchmark, and not only as a benchmark, but they've agreed to work with us this particular journey. So there's a number of key sectors that get me truly excited about this agreement.
You highlight something very critical. In fact, we're having a conversation this very morning around I would say, one of the biggest headlines this morning has been the petrol hike.
Yes.
We're discussing it with an economist. He's mentioning that the hike to rising Brent crude prices, dollar to lilangeni fluctuations, all of that influencing the exerted price hikes that motorists this morning wake up to with shock. And surely every Eswati is going to feel it, because the downstream effects then get into households, purchasing of goods, literally everything. And you mentioned something important, that the UAE is quite a leader in that particular sector. And if we leverage that, our strategic oil reserve, surely it should be bolstered. But I do want us to talk about the protection that is then provided to UAE investors in Eswatini. You did mention that we should recognize niche markets there.
Right. So it is reciprocal protection. So in other words, if an investor from Eswatini wants to invest in the UAE or wants to trade in the UAE, within the parameters, the rules in each country, we have agreed with each other that investors will not be subjected to unfair business practices, and will not be segregated against because they are different, and we need this because they have had very bad experiences where, because in many other countries you have what you call regime change, and when one party takes office, the rules change, and you've made an example of the US, for example, and for somebody that has sunk in their hard-earned dollar or pound or euro in a foreign currency, to then just be compromised by a simple change in a regime. So this agreement ensures that we give each other that level of comfort that whatever happens, there's a law. Because in international relations, agreements are law. There's a law that actually prohibits both countries from doing this. I like this as well because we need as a country now to hedge our bets, because we've seen that having all your eggs in one basket in terms of a strategic partner can be quite detrimental when that partner decides to change their mind. So we now want to strongly develop the trade links between Eswatini and the UAE for obvious reasons.
I do see the UAE coming back to Eswatini for more developments, keeping in mind that our sovereignty is cemented because of the way that we are governed.
Absolutely. I think there's a natural synergy there, and when we come in with our royal power, for lack of a better word, they immediately relate to that, and dare I say they are attracted to that. And
it just makes sense.
We hope that now that this agreement has been signed, things are going to flow. I do want to say there's a very important aspect of the agreement that I want Eswatini to understand. We have agreed that there will be a joint investment committee between the two countries, and there will be 2 meetings a year, one in the UAE, one in Eswatini, where we will be, consistently looking at new investment opportunities between the two countries. So what you will begin to see, in the next 12 months is there should be, through Eswatini Investment Promotion Authority, an outcome of this particular agreement to say, as we engage between the two countries, twice a year, these are the projects that we are talking to, these are the prospects that we have decided to chase and prioritize. And as a result, I think, it's not going to be just one of those things that gather dust.
I think this Joint Investment Committee salient point that you mentioned is a great parting shot to our conversation. It's surely exciting, and it does cement the long-standing relationship that we're going to have with the UAE when it comes to investment. Let's go for a net break. We'll be back shortly.